Ready, set, up your geek.
This is really cool what we're doing here with Marvel. You're playing Mockingbird in this version of this story here. So for those of you that are watching, I'm here with Michelle Hurd, and she's playing Bobbi Morse, aka Mockingbird, on Marvel's Wastelanders Hawkeye, which is playing now on XM. So you can catch it there on XM app, or you can subscribe to the Marvel podcast on Unlimited on Apple's podcast. So this story is kind of like 30 years ago, these villains of the world rose up and they killed all the superheroes, or all of those that mattered, like the really big superheroes, the ones with the superpowers. Can you tell us about this story? And so it's going to be 10 episodes. Right now, I think we're at 4. Could you tell us a little more, the people, about this show and what's the experience been like for you?
Well, I'll tell you a little about my experience. I don't want to, because I'm not sure what episodes have been, you know what I mean? So I'm like, I'm not going to say too much of there. Although I do find it sort of interesting that, it's interesting during the times, like just in general of life, of comic books, of Marvel, of storytelling, and where we've gotten to, and that now we're getting to a place where we are finding out, like, what would happen to in the future. Would superheroes still be here? Would they be, sought after? Would they be killed? Would they become, negative? Would they be now sort of dark heroes? And it's kind of, I think it's a little bit of a comment on our society and on our changing, the changing template of our world, and how, what was, known as good is now, or facts, is now different, right? It's now questioned, and everything is, it's like topsy-turvy, isn't it? Things are all turned upside down, and where do we seek help, and where do we seek justice, and how do we forge our way to find, as my mother always says, hope, right? Hope is so important. Yeah. I was really excited to be a part of this, project. I, first of all, absolutely love doing voiceover work, doing sort of radio plays, or just utilizing your voice to paint a picture. Like you, I as a person of color. So the thing that's just really a beautiful experience is to be able to not be judged by that. And just be, what people are taking in is the story that I'm telling through my voice, and through the picture that, I'm giving them. It's sort of like when you read a book, right? Like when I read Game of Thrones, I totally, me and my sister were like, oh my goodness, I'm Daenerys. I mean, Daenerys, that's totally me. She looks like me. That's Daenerys. And I was like, that's so weird, because that's not me at all. So what I'd love to be able to do is to be able to create this, give this sort of storytelling using my voice, and letting the people who hear me create their visual. They can see Bobbi how they want to see Bobbi. They can see Ash as they want to see Ash. They can put themselves in those places, and it's really, I think it's incredibly important for society, for healthy growth, that we see ourselves represented in the world, and this is one of the best ways that you can do it, is by, using your voice and letting people sort of fill in the blanks and create their self in that space. I'd love to have, a bunch of little munchkins or older munchkins or whatever, using my voice with their faces on it, in their heads. And yeah, that's what I'm wanting. So, I was really excited to be a part of it, and in that way.
It's really great too, because, and it's the perfect time. We've been in this pandemic world, And actually, radio play podcasts have become, I mean, they're massive now.
Yeah.
The 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 amount of people that are listening and following now, it's increased tenfold. And this is, I mean, I ride in my car and I listen to these podcasts, and I was actually listening to the episodes of this. I just came back from New York. Over there, and, oh, awesome! I love that, but I got to tell you, this is well, Marvel's huge, but that's kind of the hallmark of this, is having those voices, and especially for not only a person of color but a woman who can empower other young ladies. I mean, you're playing a powerful character in the annals of Marvel and Mockingbird, who little girls dress up as for Halloween and everything like that, and this iteration of this character where they hear your voice. That, I mean, it's, anytime I hear Batman's voice or I hear Kevin Conroy,
Right.
anytime you hear like these voices of these iconic characters, you hear the actors that play them, and that's what plays in your head forever. It doesn't matter who's played them in real life. It's like, these are the voices that come to mind.
Yeah. And I love that. I really love that. And I was, one of the cool things about, doing Bobbi in this universe is that she, I had to, figure out how to juggle the, this strong woman, this kick-ass creature, and the vulnerability and the, vulnerability of a mother, trying to help a teen, and I'm sure every single parent in there is like, how do you help the teen? How do we reach the teenager? But it was a really lovely challenge as an actor to sort of figure out, how do we use that? How do I make sure that I have strength in the voice, but that there's also a sound of vulnerability or empathy, something to carry that, that I'm trying to help and be strong, but I'm also aware of the love and the vulnerability of a relationship that can be oftentimes, precarious or walking on eggshells. And, and I think in that way as well, there are people can relate to that moment, those moments, and how do we reach each other, and what happens when relationships are strained, and how do you forge forward? What happens? I mean, it's loaded, isn't it? There's just a lot there.
There is a lot, and the thing that I love the most about, particularly the voice acting, is that not only can you as a great actress yourself, who can tell a story on screen, but to be able to captivate an audience just by using your voice and driving the emotion. Could you tell me what are some of the differences that you take from acting on screen versus putting your voice into work?
Yeah, I have to say, honestly, because I love everything. I'm gluttonous as an artist. I'm like, wow, Broadway, TV, movie, everything, give it to me. But I do love voiceover acting. When I first got out of college, literally, I knew I couldn't. I suck at waiting tables, and I'm a terrible receptionist. I type with two fingers barely, and like I'm dyslexic. Like so much stuff going on. So I was like, how do I make money? How can I pay my bills? I need to figure out how to feed myself. And I think I went in for like an audition at a commercial agency, and they heard my voice, and they're like, hey, you should try voiceovers. And it just opened up the world to me, because it's amazing. Because again, and I don't, and I'm not going to apologize for saying this, but I keep bringing the fact that I'm a person of color, but there are limitations that happen, conscious or unconscious, when you walk into a room. And about voiceovers, I felt like I was emancipated. I felt like I was just, there's so much freedom, because it's my voice, and my voice is a paintbrush, and there's a blank canvas, and I have to figure out what is red and what's green and what's yellow and how do I make blue, and and it's just it almost it's almost more rewarding, honestly, because I don't have all of the trappings of the outfit or the set or the hair and makeup, and that I can rely on when I'm doing television, film, or theater. I get to rely on those things to help me tell the story. When you're doing, radio plays, podcasts, VOs, you are really, your foundation is the story, and how do I tell the story? And my tools are just my voice, and in this situation, my relationship and my interaction with the other actors, of us being able to come to a place where we create that relationship solely through the way that our voices tag each other. How it sort of blends in or interrupts each other. And then putting little sound effects in there, and it's a different type of art form that takes a different type of skill, but it's one of the most rewarding experiences that I can. I mean, during the pandemic, my husband and I, we love to read to each other. We just, sit down, because it came about when, you'd read a really good book and you'd be like, oh, babe, you got to read this book. And then they would read the book. And at a certain point, we're like, well, let's just read the books together, because then we can experience it together. And it's amazing when you sit back and you let someone read to you, and you give into that experience. And to be a part of something like this that can, I can basically read a story to thousands of people. It's just incredibly rewarding, and some of the best work, challenging and exciting, fulfilling work that you can do as an artist. I think.
I think that is an amazing thing. I love your takes on taking on this role and taking your voice and using it as a paintbrush. I think that probably defined exactly what this is. If there's anything that you wanted the people listening that would take out of this particular podcast, what would that be?
What would that be? Well, I don't want to give any,
no spoilers.
Yeah, no spoilers. But I think with this podcast, with this time that we've been going through, the connection to people, to loved ones, to reaching out to people who you may not have spoken to for a period of time, that's something that I hope that maybe just sort of sits in the, maybe it makes an impact because when we tell art, when we're doing storytelling, there's always an underline of some things that you can take away. There's the actual things that are happening that are happening that we're telling you, and then there's a bit of a little nugget of heart that we try to tell. And I think, at least from Bobbi's point of view, her family, love, possibilities of future, and doing better is really really important. And wouldn't it be lovely if we could all just take a little bit of a moment to think about that, and maybe reach out to the people who we haven't seen, make sure that we say I love you to the ones that we have not said that to enough, and live life in a full present way.
Goodness, that was a great message. Thank you for doing this. For those watching, I'm here with Michelle Hurd. She's in the Marvel Wastelanders Hawkeye, voicing Mockingbird. And this is the second installment in the Marvel Wastelanders audio. I think it's a 10-episode original podcast. The series is written by Jay Holtham, directed by Rachel Shavkin, and it has original sound by 1,000 Birds and original score by James Harrison Monaco and Jerome Ellis. This is now on Apple Podcasts. Go to Marvel's Unlimited, and you can go to if you have SiriusXM app, you can listen to it there as well. Thank you, Michelle, for joining me for this interview. Thank you for creating history with this interpretation of this character.
Thank you so very much. You're so kind. And thank you for this wonderful questions and this great interview. Thank you, my friend.
Hey there, freaks and geeks. If you like this content and would like to view more like it, please visit us on all of our social platforms, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also visit us on our YouTube page, /UpYourGeek. And you can visit upyourgeek.com, where you can experience a new standard in geek pop culture and entertainment media. Because no matter what fandom you're passionate about, we have it waiting here for you. Ready, set, up your geek.